Hey everybody, I'm here today with Drew Astorino. Drew Astorino played at General McLean High School near Erie, Pennsylvania, near Edinburgh, PA. Drew helped lead General McLean to a football state championship and a basketball state championship in his senior year. He went on to play at Penn State. I believe he was honorable mention Big Ten 3 times, starting safety for the team. And just had a stellar career. He was a standout football, basketball, and track. Say, what's up, Drew? How you doing today?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Good. Thanks for coming, Drew. I really appreciate you, man. I was always amazed at just watching you and some of the things that you were able to do on the field, man. And it was just a great thing to see what you did, man.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. So let's start off by talking about like where did you grow up?
Yeah.
What city? What state?
Yeah, so Edinburgh, Pennsylvania, 15 miles south of Erie, obviously. Went to General McLean. Born and raised there. My parents both went to Edinburgh University. So my dad's from Punxsutawney, my mom's from Pittsburgh. So transplants to Edinburgh. Loved their college experience, so just decided to stay. I'm the oldest of 3 in my family. I have a younger brother, Matt, and a younger sister, Lauren. So yeah, grew up my whole life, Edinburgh.
Great. So it was a good thing that your parents decided to stay in the Edinburgh area for General McLean and just the whole city of Erie just to get to watch you play growing up. So what was life like growing up for you in like a college town?
Yeah.
What was that? What was that like?
I mean, one of the best parts looking back now is I got to grow up with a lot of kids who had college athletes as parents, right? So a lot of my buddies' dads played at Edinburgh, whether they played basketball or football, or my dad wrestled specifically. So you don't realize, right? Like all your dads were athletes, right? So we kind of we grew up from a young age, just always competing, no matter what, right? Backyard football, I'm not too old, but that was back in the day, right? You just went and knocked on somebody's door, got everybody in your neighborhood, and you just played backyard football. You know, something big in Edinburgh is 3-on-3 basketball in the summer. I mean, I'm talking from 5 years until senior year in high school. We go down, there's about a 4-week 3-on-3 camp where we just battle to the death with our teammates, with our buddies, right? For a 3-on-3 championship. So wonderful, upbringing, small town, right? College town, but obviously close to Erie.
Right.
And like I said, a lot of former athletes, right? Their children is who I grew up in. So very competitive atmosphere.
Right.
But good people. Love representing Edinburgh specifically, and obviously the Erie area in general, specifically when I went to State College.
Right. Yeah, it's kind of the backyard football thing. Like I remember that growing up. Like that was just like you said, it's a big thing all day long. It seemed like all the big brothers in the neighborhood. I was the little brother at the time, so all the big brothers had a little brother, and they used to make us play all day, make us play sports all day long.
Right. I mean, you just leave the house, and then you'd come back when it's dark. I always wonder, because I have little kids, like, is that ever going to happen with my kids? I don't know if those days are here anymore, right? I hope they are, because I wouldn't have it any other way. I mean, that's
right. It was a great time.
Yeah, learn to police ourselves, right? Learn to argue and then figure it out and move on, right?
So organized sports. Like, when did you start getting into organized sports?
Man, I'm trying to think, right? Like my dad, college wrestler, but he played all sports growing up. So I think his mind frame was he wanted me to do everything, right? He never steered me in any direction, and he wanted me to play everything. Obviously the big thing was once I commit for that season, and then I decide afterwards if I like it or not. So I mean, Little League baseball, right? We grew up playing soccer for a little bit, right? But kind of moved on to baseball. Basketball, probably 4th grade, right? Was probably when I started playing organized football or basketball. Wrestling since I was in kindergarten. Wow. I mean, he obviously was a wrestler, so I grew up, and he coached for Edinburgh University for 25 years. So grew up around the Edinburgh wrestling program, and obviously their rise to success when they were doing really well. Football specifically, I didn't play organized football until I was in 7th grade. My mom wouldn't let me play organized football in Little Gridders, too small. So once 7th grade hit, I finally got to put on a helmet and shoulder pads and see if I like it.
Right. So did you get to meet, I know Tony Roby.
Yeah.
He's out at Virginia Tech now. Did you ever?
Oh yeah, I have a vivid memory of being at the national tournament when Tony Roby was, I don't know how old I was. I mean, I can just vividly remember him, semifinals of the national tournament. He took down, I think it was a guy from Illinois, to go to the national championship. And so vividly remember Tony. My dad still keeps in contact with him. Obviously, he's at Virginia Tech.
Right,
so
right.
We follow him for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yep. And of course, in '91, they won a state title.
Yeah.
Football, so.
Bad man, I heard. I haven't seen him high school football, but my dad always tells me about it. And his dad, obviously, I think is local.
Oh yeah. Yep. So you had some great football career at McLean, obviously. Do you have any like memories that any like specific memories that you stick out to you, or?
Oh, man, there's so many. I mean, I think just, the group of guys that we had in my class, right? We had stuck together. I mean, Edinburgh's such a small town, right? It's not like Mill Creek or Erie, right, where everybody's going to different elementary schools, different middle schools, meeting up in high school. We really all started playing organized sports for the same team since 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th grade, right? So I was definitely the little guy until I was probably about 10th grade, right? I remember being in 9th grade football, barely getting any playing time on the JV team and being like, man, do I really want to do this anymore, right? But kind of hit that growth spurt in 10th grade. And some of my fondest memories, right, it's funny how, like, football is obviously your fondest memories, but it's just some of this dumb stuff that you do, right, that you miss outside. But football-wise specifically, right, we beat Prep. Prep came to General McLean, which was probably the biggest game in General McLean history. We beat Prep on pretty much a last-second run.
Yeah, I remember listening to the game.
That was obviously a great memory, and obviously our state championship run, right? Like the things you remember midway through the season, we lost back-to-back games to Prep and Vincent, right? And so a lot of the teams crumble in situations like that. But we had such a good core of people. Our coaches really believed in us. And so moving forward, I think my favorite game that I ever played in was when we played Thomas Jefferson in the Western Finals, right? They were undefeated Whitfield champs. We were kind of this nobody team coming out of a District 10, and we just beat the hell out of them, and they didn't really see what was coming. We just ran the option. They were, I remember our coach Wells, he said, we're going to run the option, and they're going to put this on game film for everybody who wants to run the option. Forever and ever is going to look at this game film. And so I think that even more than the state championship, I think that was my most fondest memory. Yeah,
I remember listening to that game on the radio, and, obviously I coached during that era when you guys were in, and it was just like, how do they run this stuff so well? You know what I mean? But I remember listening to it, and I was just thinking, like, man, they have no clue, like, how to stop it. Because I remember, like, there was one time, it was maybe, like, 4th and 8 on, like, your own 35-yard line. And you went for it and got it. I'm like, they have no clue how to stop this offense.
I think Coach Wells would tell you he was a risk taker, but what people did know is we didn't have a long snapper.
Okay.
we didn't trust anybody to snap the ball back and be able to punt it. So we rarely ever punted that year, honestly, because we couldn't snap the ball back, right? But it was such a fun offense to run in high school because it's a little bit complicated for defenses. You have to be so disciplined, right? And we would just not block your best player, right? We would just read your best player.
Right.
And so that best player would get so frustrated. Whatever he did, we went the other way. We kind of took him out.
Right.
And it was just really fun. It was fun to run because we had a probably 3, 4, 5 guys who could run the ball. So you wanted to stop me, wonderful. We'll give it to our fullback, Ryan Skelton. If you want to stop our fullback, we'll pitch it to Dan Skelton or Bob Stoffer. So it was, really shared the wealth in that offense. Right. It was really fun.
Now, you switched to quarterback, right? Because you were a wingback before, right?
Yep.
How was that?
It was great. I mean, I practiced. I was the backup quarterback.
Okay.
I don't know if you know a kid named Ben Swank.
Yeah, I remember, yeah.
Great football player, great athlete. He obviously went on to Edinburgh. He played safety at Edinburgh, but he was he was such a great quarterback for John McLean for a long time. And so I was just kind of in the waiting for him.
Okay.
And junior year got to play a little quarterback because he got hurt specifically, right? But again, that offense is your quarterback is a running back.
Right.
We weren't throwing it very often. So, it was just learning, how to read. And Coach Wells did just such a good job of teaching us those basic skills, right? Because if you could read somebody, I mean,
you don't got to block them, right?
Right. It set us apart. It really did.
Right. So you guys, real quick, you had some battles with Vincent. I mean, that was like the big game every year. Like SV and Jordan McClain.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that? Maybe some of the guys you remember from that game, or some of the things what was it like getting ready for that game?
Yeah, I mean, I was just reminiscing about, and I just thinking about that when I came over here, man. Just some, obviously, you talked about Henderson, a guy I forgot about, right? Mo Williams, right? He was playing quarterback. The running back.
Dante,
right? Dante.
Mario Henry,
right? Just talk about a stable of running backs we thought we had, right?
Right.
Those guys all went on to play D1, D2 as running backs. I think we had a lot of mutual respect, and we talked about this earlier. Those teams, those games throughout the season really, really improved our team, and we lost a lot of those battles, right? But moving forward, when we did win, when we'd go to the state playoffs, we were two of the best teams in the state, right? And we were playing in Erie. We were playing regular season game. We were playing in the district championship. So when you moved forward, you played teams like Perry or right, we played Whitfield teams. Those teams we knew weren't as good as Vincent, right? So that built the confidence. And then, of course, we knew we were going to play all those boys in basketball again.
Right. Yeah,
and so just battles. I mean, specifically down at, not Memorial Stadium. Vets. Is there a better place to play a high school football game than Vets Stadium? I mean, walking down those steps, right? Erie crowd packed, General McClain, Erie, everybody who wasn't even involved was at that game, which was so cool, right? Crowds were awesome. So I always say too, I mean, I got to play in some of the coolest places in the country, but when you're representing your hometown, you're representing your high school, it's something special, right? It means a little bit more to you. Definitely. So love those battles, and you appreciate them so much more, right? Than whipping up on some of the smaller teams that yeah, that did nothing for me. I'd rather play Vincent. I'd rather play Prep, McDowell 100 out of 100 times.
Right. So you did something that most people will never have a chance to do. So like, you scored a winning touchdown in a state championship game, and you hit the winning shot basketball. So like, I mean, you're forever like a hero. You're a hero, man. I mean, like, that's gonna be talked about forever. So tell me about that. Like, how do you feel about that?
First of all, it seems like a hell of a long time ago. First of all, but. I mean, like I said, I'm a product of the right time and the right place, first and foremost, right?
What's up, fellas? Some of my students.
So, like, being in those two specific moments, right, is just about the luckiest thing that can happen to me, right? And, you know, in football, first of all, it was like, we played Pottsville. They were such a great team. We had such a battle back and forth with them, right? And so, like, the touchdown in that game, I know was the last one, right? But there was just so many other big plays that I can talk about that I feel like won the game. Brad Cowan stops their team on 4th down, right? Really to win the state championship. On the basketball side, was different. We had a guy named Sean Walker. He was the stud of all studs on the basketball court. He was what made our team tick, right? And obviously Bob Stauffer was our point guard. But I don't know. I guess, like I said, I feel like I just feel lucky, right? Because I think those two moments will be remembered forever. But I think there's so many things that lead up to those two moments that don't have me involved, right?
Right. Just the whole total team thing. So you go on to have. Story career. So let's talk about being recruited. Like, I mean, what was that like? Who was recruiting you? Who was offering you?
I have a great recruiting story because my dad was the recruiting coordinator for Edinboro University Wrestling, right? So he has some D1, obviously, background. He's trying to get some of the best people in the country to come to Edinboro to wrestle. I have a good junior year. I think, hey, maybe I can play college football, right? So my dad knows exactly what he's doing. I don't know anything. My dad puts together 100 highlight films. He puts together 100 resumes, 100 letters. We ship them out to 100 schools in the area. D2 schools, small D1, everybody. Notre Dame. That was his favorite score.
Send it everywhere,
right? The 95% of the calls I got were, "Hey, thanks for your letter. We're not interested." So he, I don't know if anybody really knows the story, but he concocts pretty much a plan, right, to tell the 3 worst Division I college programs at the time, which were Duke, Kent State, and man, I forget the other one, right? But he decides, because we were kind of talking to them a little bit, he decides to tell them, hey, we're going to narrow down our decision. We don't want to talk to you guys anymore unless you offer.
Right. So he gives them all ultimatum, right?
Which we don't have an offer to begin with at this
right.
point. And to make a long story short, Kent State bites on it, right? So Kent State offers. I immediately accept the offer. It's my only offer at the time. I did receive offers from New Hampshire, some Division I AA schools, but Kent State was my only offer at the time. This was about midway through my senior year. Of course, we go on. We have a great playoff run. We win the state championship. I'm getting a little more recognition, obviously, and at that time, at the end of the season, Iowa, who has a really great tie, obviously, to Erie, right? They start to come in the mix, and so does Penn State. Penn State offers me a gray shirt, which basically means I would have to sit out during the fall, and then I would earn a scholarship in the winter.
Okay.
Right? So with about a week left to go in the signing day, I'm still committed to Kent State. Iowa offers me a scholarship. So I immediately fly out to Iowa. I have a visit out there. I love Iowa.
Right.
Obviously amazing. I come back and I tell my dad, I'm going to commit to Iowa after school today. We have a 2-hour delay. I don't go to school. Penn State calls me that morning. They actually had a commit, decommit, and go elsewhere. A spot opened up. They call me in the morning. They say, hey, we have a spot for you. You're the last guy. I committed on the spot.
Wow.
So it was interesting story. I don't,
great story.
I don't necessarily wasn't obviously a large recruit for everybody. I felt very lucky to get a spot. I told Penn State, hey, if you offer, I will commit.
I'm taking it.
Which probably is not good to show your hand like that.
Right.
But it was definitely Iowa who kind of broke the barrier for those big time D1 schools. Right.
So what positions did you end up playing when you went down there?
So I started kind of tinkering, right? I kind of went as an athlete, playing both, slot wide receiver, a little bit of corner, and kind of settled on safety. So I would say during my first camp, I was playing a little corner, and then they moved me immediately to safety.
And you played DB in high school too, right?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, I don't want to tackle anybody in high school. Just mainly focusing on
the
offense, right? And all of my film that I sent out as a high school player was offense, right? I played corner. Nobody threw it back then.
Right. Nobody threw the ball.
Everybody was running. I didn't want to touch anybody. I immediately knew when I got to Penn State, right? I'm not on the caliber as some of these wide receivers are. I got to make my name on the defensive side. So quickly transfer over to safety, yeah.
Right. So tell me, when you're in a Division I program, and during the season or the off season, what's a typical day like for you? Like you wake up in the morning, do this, do that. What's that like?
I'll start with the season. Well, we'll start before the season, right? Summer, you're down there all summer. Right? You make a commitment down there and you're working out 1 or 2 times a day during the summer, taking classes, a little bit more relaxed, and you're doing a lot of stuff on your own, right? The DBs are getting together, the entire defense is getting together. There's restrictions, there was at least back then, on what coaches could be at in the summer, right? So you spend the majority of the time with your strength and conditioning program, right? They are your lifeblood to the program. Most of your coaches are out recruiting, right, during that time.
Right.
Camp's a grind, man. Camp's as tough as it gets, right? That's 3 weeks. That is hours and hours of film study specifically, right? Lifting and practicing. But I think the main difference, because I truly believe high school camp is more difficult than college camp when it comes to putting on pads and the physicality.
Right.
It's so much more mental when you get to college, right? It's knowing where to be, knowing how to get there, and make an adjustment. So a lot of film study. On a regular basis, right, during the season, we had to have all our classes in before 12. You get to the football building around 1 o'clock, you watch a little film, you meet with your position, you watch film from probably 2 to 3:30, you go out, you practice, you lift afterwards, right? You go get some dinner. It's about 8 o'clock, and you do it all over again, right? And then Fridays, obviously, at home games, I don't know if a lot of people know this, home games, they ship out the team to a local hotel.
Okay.
So we actually stay at a local hotel as a team, and then obviously if we're on the road, we hop on the plane, we fly to Ann Arbor or wherever we're gonna go,
Right. Stay
there, play the next day, and then we're home a lot of the times quicker than you can get out of the parking lot, if we're being honest.
Wow. So, what about like getting ready for games like Ohio State, Michigan?
Yeah.
You know, Michigan State. What's that like? Getting ready for those bowl games?
Yeah, I mean, you you treat it such like a job, because it is. I mean, I think some people, I know I tried to take out the allure, right?
Okay.
And I wish that I didn't, right? Because I go back now, I'm like, I wish I lived a little bit more in the moment, but it is your job. It's what you are there to do, right? So you treat it as such, right? I never looked at anybody that I was playing with any more awe, just because I thought we were pretty badass as well, right?
Right,
we were playing, so I was hoping they might think that specifically about our defense. We had such great defenses for most of the years that I was at Penn State, and if I'm being honest, our offenses were mostly subpar sometimes, right? So we knew we give up 10 points, we give up 14 points, we're probably not going to win this game, right? So we felt like there was a big burden on us to win games.
Right.
So, I mean, it was just a lot of preparation mentally, right? I think that was, if I was as prepared as I could be mentally, I knew I would be physically.
Right. Yeah, because I play a little NAI Division II.
Yeah.
But I could tell the difference, like in high school, coach called the play.
Yeah.
We ran it no matter what, and what they lined up in. But I knew, like in college, quarterback was coming, checking to this, defense had checks.
Yeah.
So it was much, it was less physical, like you said, but more like it was more mental.
Yeah, I mean, and obviously the physical aspect is there. They're bigger and stronger. But I always like to remind people, if you go to a Penn State game on defense, you can't talk. It's so loud. So all of our checks, everything that we did was in sign language on defense, right? And so we had signs for everything. I was one of the guys that were making the checks. Just a little insight. And I didn't even know, even now it's more complicated, right? With the offenses that they're running, now I don't know how they necessarily do it. But, we would get a defensive call, right, that had 8 defensive calls on it.
Wow.
Right? And so depending on the formation they came out in, right, is what we called. Then the motion and the checks, right? And that is the stuff that I love about football. I know everybody loves the physical aspect, but they're the mental. These guys are so smart, right? You watch these guys now, and how smart they are at what they're doing is incredible.
Right. Just the minimum of it. So, do you still keep in contact with any of your teammates or anything like that from Penn State? Or
Yeah.
who are some of the guys that can you talk about some of the guys that you play with that people might really, really know?
Yeah, I mean, a good buddy of mine, Sean Lee, he played for Dallas for about 10 years. I keep in contact with him, but at this point, I'm an old man, right? None of those guys, if they're playing still now, right? But, we played, some of the guys in my class were Devin Still, right? He was a first-round draft pick. But some of my, most of my good buddies, they were just, everyday guys on the team, right? Grinding. They put in just as much effort and time as everybody else, just probably didn't get the shine, right? But, my best buddy is Joe Suey. His dad, obviously, Matt Suey, played for the Bears for a long time, right? So keep in touch with him. But, a lot of lifelong buddies still to this day, specifically.
Were you, did I hear, I thought I was listening to a game on the radio one day, and they said you were defensive captain?
Yeah.
Now, who picks that? The coaches, the players?
Players. It was player picked. Me, Devin Still, Quinn Barham, and Derek Moy. Quinn and Derek were the offensive, and we were the defense. We picked them at the beginning of the year, and so obviously one of the biggest honors just being picked, by my teammates, right? And I do think, like I said, I was not the biggest force on our team, right? I definitely wasn't the best player, but I did think I led by example, right? Specifically, my work ethic, in the weight room, my work ethic. you know, just even in morning runs, right? All that stuff, everybody sees Saturdays. That's about 3% of what
you really do.
Yeah, of what these guys are going through on a regular basis, right? So, yeah.
Right. So I did read in the Erie Hall of Fame that you were voted into. You were an academic All-American.
Yeah.
So obviously you cared about academics too. So because I work with kids and high school kids. Can you talk about the importance of that, of being academically sound too?
Absolutely. I mean, I played under Coach Paterno, right? And that was non-negotiable, right? That came first, right? They were checking classes where we were at, right? And you had to keep your grades up, right? But I mean, even me playing football, right? You have these grandiose ideas of all of this money, right? And playing football for the rest of your life, and that's just not how it works, right? So even myself, I wish I learned that at an earlier age, right? But you know, I think working hard, no matter what you do, is something my dad taught me, right? And whether that was on the football field or in the classroom is just as important. And if I'm being honest, it's much more important in the classroom than it is on the football field, right? You get the accolades, you get in the newspaper for that, right? But at the end of the day, you're kind of just an old head, right, that was good at football a long time ago, right? So it's a tough lesson, I think, to teach people, but it is so important. It's probably the most important.
Right. Yeah, I talk about that all the time. I played quarterback in high school, and I'm like, man, I used to throw the ball 70 yards, but that can't get me a cup of coffee anymore. You know what I mean?
Welcome to the club. And if I'm being truthful, like I said, I got 3 little kids at home. They could care less, right? That means nothing to them, right? And even my wife, she's like, "Are you sure somebody wants to talk to you about playing football?" Like, that was a long time ago, right? And so I think you mature, you move on. It's such a special thing, right, that bonds people for life, but there are more important things. For sure.
Right. So after you were done playing, did you have any aspirations of going on to the next level? Did you play at all at the next level?
Yeah. I did, of course, right? I mean, I think it's everybody's dream to play at the next level, right? So I did a little combine training. I went to the Eagles rookie mini camp. Less than a cup of coffee, I would say, but and that was it, right? I do regret a little bit trying not to pursue that more. If I'm being honest, I didn't want to be one of those guys that was constantly trying to
lifelong.
Right. But I you know, looking back, I would encourage people that are in that position, like, what the hell, right? You only are 23, 24, 25. What are you trying to grow up so fast for? Give it a go, pursue it a little bit longer. So I quickly moved on from that. I wish I wouldn't have, but yeah.
But you still had a great career.
Yeah,
like you said, you know what I mean? You move on in life, you know?
No doubt. And I do like to remind people, like, you know, I got the chance to play Division I big time college football. Those guys in the pros are the 1%ers of those guys, right? Was I at that caliber? Probably not anyways. Those guys are a whole different level of special. And you talk about the mental aspect. They have that times 10 with the physical side, right? So they are special. I'm in awe of them on what they do, probably more than most. And I know most people are.
Right. So Drew, I'm just going to, before we wrap up here, and got a couple more things for you.
Yeah.
I'm going to say, you've probably seen this before, they say one word, and then whatever comes in your mind.
Yep.
So let's start off with football.
Love. I love football. I mean, I still do. Yeah.
State title in basketball and football.
Special.
Winning.
Important.
Penn State.
Oh, man. I would like to say love again, because I love favorite place, favorite team. Met my wife there. Yeah, favorite.
Right. Edinboro community.
Loyal.
Family.
Everything.
Life.
Short. Too short.
Yeah. So thanks for that, Drew. Any final comments you want to share? Anything you want to say to the audience out there? Once again, I'm going to share the video so people can see it. Anything else you want to say before we wrap up?
No, I mean, I appreciate you meeting with me. I'm always love talking about football. Obviously, reliving the old days. But no, I'm excited to see, be a part of Erie. We live in Erie now, right? Be a part of youth sports coming up. I follow everybody here in Erie and am rooting. What I love about Erie is we are all rivals until we get to that next level, right. And then we're back in.
Our kids are playing together, right?
Right, exactly. We're back in Erie, right? Now, even though when we were playing, it was the same. It was like everybody hated us when we were playing, and then we moved on, and it was like the whole entire Western Pennsylvania Erie community backed us, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm excited to be a part of that moving forward, and yeah, that's it. Thanks for having me.
Yep. Well, hey everybody. Once again, we were here with Drew Astorino. Grew up in Edinboro, close to Erie. Played at General McLean High School. Went on to play at Penn State. We're so glad to have you here, Drew. Thanks for your time.
Appreciate it. Yeah, thank you.